And so now let's continue what other unusual, very unique drills this application has. And here is my favorite one. So I'll show you again what the drill 7 brings.
Okay.
So this drill allows you actually to create the lesson of your own interest, or for your own vocational growth, or for preparation your home work or whatever. I have put here this text. It's a little poem, and you will see that you can use the speech shadowing for any text which you bring into this drill. Okay, so
Okay.
here is the drill, and if you highlight this word, and you click on the button here at the top, translate, you see translation again for a few seconds. So whatever you bring here from internet or from any other text, you can understand what it is about because support is built in. Now, what happens with the next drill? So here you prepare your own lesson, and I will show you the options in the next drill. If I click on the button robot list, now, you understand that this recording, which you hear, is actually a work of a robot which can read any text with a quality near human quality. Do you understand this, Maya?
Yes, yes. That is not a problem. I mean, that's a given.
Yeah, that is a given, but what is here unusual that you can also use speech shadowing with this robot, and you have a control on the speed. Okay, you can make
Okay.
it slower or faster, and you can do even the speech shadowing. For example, the little mice plan to bell the cat. Believe me, said a youthful mouse, that cat makes too much fuss. This silly thing just sits and waits to capture one of us. You're right, Pierre said. Okay, so you can actually do this repetition on any text of your own interest, creation. You can prepare here, you can type here, you can do whatever you want. Then at the bottom of the screen, there's a record button. You can record it, and then you can share it with your peers, your friends, or with the teacher. This is a great option to have your own lessons. It is open, how to say, open design. It's really interactive. You understand this?
Yes.
The next drill. One, the human body is an instrument for the production of art in the life of a human soul. Two, your body can do more things that you are aware of. Three, just think how many functions your body can perform without your being aware. Four, and so on and so forth. So you have here all of those blocks from the lesson, and you are given the first part, but you have to complete it. It's nothing which was used before, because again and again, no, we do not think, we do not explain, we just produce, we just train the language. You understand this here?
Yes.
The next drill is a very important one. Listen to it. So what I do here, I click on the record button and then on the execute button, and your body can fulfill many functions without your being aware of it. Whatever words appears on the screen, maybe you see it, maybe not, uh, parents uh, parents are given to us as something to ignore. One humorist have used this phrase, and I still remember it. So whatever comes from your past experience, your body can create, has its own pharmacy, and it creates a number of chemicals used for active healing of your wound.
Okay.
To fulfill your dream, you have to train your language to be able to communicate, not to learn it. Start speaking before you have learned English, and in this way you acquire language skills. So in this way, now I stop it because we cannot do it for that long. And have you seen the word start, for example, now on the screen? Do you see it?
I can.
Okay. Because probably this type of screen is not it's not covered by screen share, but just trust me that from the word cloud, certain words are taken randomly, and each time it will be a different word, and you have to show your ability to speak. So you do not explain what start means. You just say a few words from your past experience. And in this way, I record it, and then I can listen to the recording on the record button and then on the execute button. And your body can fulfill many functions without your being aware of it. Whatever word appears on the screen, maybe you see it, maybe not. Now, what you hear now is a recording. So whatever you create in this testing is recorded, and you can share it with your friends or teacher. And this recording is also showing you how you speak, how many words you use, how many sentences you can produce. First, it would not be easy for your students. It's very unusual activity, but because it is physical training, a kind of physical training, they will do it better with each lesson, and finally they will be able to do it, to produce language. And the
Uh,
production of language is recorded, and thus you can actually measure the words which your students remembered, and those words which he cannot remember or he cannot produce the sentence, you understand that it is not in his active vocabulary yet, so he has to continue working.
okay. Question.
Yes.
Is there a specific time or timing that the student needs to practice on a what daily basis, on a weekly, 3 times a week, whatever basis that the student practices?
The most important part is that he practices. The most important part that he can practice at home and in the class using the same application. Because if you have, imagine you have those tablets and every student, they work actually in pairs. What that means that they are talking all the time. They don't listen to your explanation, which actually shows why the conventional method doesn't work, because you cannot remember what you explain. And you have to talk all the time to acquire that ability to speak. And it doesn't matter how often you do, etc. Of course, it matters in a way that the more you do it, the better you are. And of course, you cannot do it once a week. It has no meaning, because we have another barrier, that is that our memory has a protection mechanism, and if you don't use information for too long, it will be erased. Even if it is acquired for a certain period, you have to reinforce it. So if you basically, and in average, I would say that if you use it 3 times a week, to say about an hour at home, and about an hour and a half or in class, that is the ideal environment.
Okay, I understand that part. From the teacher's perspective, let's say I have 15 students in my classroom, or I
Yes.
have 10 students in my classroom. Do I conduct quote unquote lesson as a group, or do I do it as individual? Which means, what
It,
is the
I did.
approach?
What is the process? A very good question, and I will explain how usually it is done, because I had a few schools and they have done in such a way. All students are working in pairs, and they use we don't have camera here, so I cannot show you. One tablet actually can have two headsets, and your son Adam can explain it how it is done very easily. So they work, and you conduct as a group. They work all the time on their own. You are there as a facilitator. You come to one group or another to help, and if they have any problem, you demonstrate or explain them how to use it.
I
They
know.
are working in pairs all the time, and they're talking usually in such a mode. One is reading and repeating at the same time, the second is listening and making some notes. Then he gives you feedback. In this way, he becomes a teacher. And by the way, it is well known that the best and fastest way to learn is to teach. So your students who do not speak English actually perform a certain function of a teacher, and that's what they love, and that's what actually makes them very active, emotionally involved, and interested in this. So then they flip. One who was listening is started speaking, shadowing, and the other is listening. And they each time they flop, and then they talk, they speak. 80% of time they are speaking, all of them. And it doesn't matter their noise or whatever, because they're in headsets and they don't hear the others. They hear only themselves, and headset is a must.
Okay, I understand that part. The question that I've asked you previously was, how much do students need to practice, is because for that specific reason, because he or she, meaning the student, needs to be up to his or her par, because they would need to cooperate. So let's say if the student does not practice what he or she is supposed to do at home, that means that they will be kind of in the back. They will not understand what's going on, where they need to be at that particular point, or at that particular in that particular class. So it is very important, especially with the children, to let them know that they need to practice in order to be, let's say, part 6 or part 5 or 7 or whatever it is that they are studying. And if they do not do that, they won't be able to cooperate as partners and perform.
Um, Excuse me, Maya, but it sounds very trivial. If they do not do anything, and so they're behind, they're like against the whole process, then it has nothing to do with the language bridge. But if they do participate, and they will, by the way, their interest will be, because they work in pairs, and they are very special Chinese children, I understand that, very competitive, and so they would like to do better than their counterpart. And because here it's not difficult, you just copy, you just imitate, you just listen, you just produce, and they will gladly do it. And to say that they have to work at home is obvious. And by the way, I think it would not be a big problem, because if you give them the list of words to remember or anything else which is absolutely against brain, how to say, functionality, and that's why they don't want to participate, they're not interested, this is a different story. Because here is everything done as an exercise. Everything is done like playing basketball, like driving a car or playing guitar. So they will gladly do it because they immediately see that they can speak. And in speech, by itself, producing speech, they acquire it.
Okay. No, I'm not trying to argue. I'm just trying to be, kind of a, um,
I understand, but I think I give you enough answer.
yes, you did. I mean, generally speaking, you are right. There will be always those who will be interested. I mean, won't be interested. Most of them will be interested because they know they are working, that I or another teacher will be a facilitator as a guide, and there will be basically practice with each other. Now,
Exactly, and because they practice with each other, actually, for them it's very competitive. And because it's not difficult for them, it's not necessary to be shy, as usually children are, especially Chinese, because they can imitate. Everybody can do it, and the more they do it, the better they become. So what we have here is a totally a new drill. It was added only yesterday, and I love this drill because it is a poem, and each lesson has such an inspirational poem recorded in special English. We don't use robot here, and after many repetitions, actually maybe two or three, most students will remember it because it's like a song. And when you remember it, just listen. I will demonstrate it.
okay.
The Guy in the Glass by Dale Wimbrow. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it is not your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass, but fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. So what you hear, it may be noisy because we have this complicated screen sharing and all that stuff. What you have here, and each lesson has a different poem, which you can also change, by the way. You because this is a poem, it's like a song, but it is better than song because text actually asks for 100% attention because you have to process text. And when you listen to song or video, your attention is only partially involved. And after many repetitions, you remember it. And each time, I like the first lesson has a poem called I Am a Dreamer. The second, and there are many of them, 31 poems, and those poems are additional way to keep the interest of children and to give them the way to practice on something which is interesting and which is close to their understanding. All those poems are selected as poems for children. That is the last drill of this Android application. And so you see that in general there are 11 drills. It doesn't mean that you have to use them all in one session, but it's just the whole spectrum of abilities to train to actually acquire the language skills by producing or re-experiencing language.